A lot of artists learn by touching as well as seeing. And the way materials, convey certain messages, metal is really cold, wood is warm, glass can be either. I'm Norwood Viviano. I'm an artist who works with blown glass, kiln cast glass, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Visual and Media Arts at Grand Valley State University. The objects in City's Departure and Deviation look like they're machine-made. If you look at them really closely, you can see tool marks on them. You can see elements that talk about touch. And I think that there's also an emotional quality to how artists interact with materials, and it's an important thing to understand and convey to an audience. Unlike a lot of young artists, I never found drawing to be a very natural activity, but I always felt really comfortable building and working with my hands. And so that just continued to evolve, working with wood, carving plaster, and, working with wire and a whole bunch of other materials kind of evolved into, a language of working three-dimensionally that seemed to continue to develop rather than feeling like, I'd hit some place where I wasn't learning something new. And I feel like glass is a really nice extension of that because as a material, it's rewarding, but it's also incredibly challenging. It tends to teach me things every day when I use it. I can anticipate that something is going to go a certain way, and it doesn't. So there's something about that, I think, as an artist, and it's not just about the challenge of forcing the material to do certain things, but it's also about the reward of learning about how to use the material in new ways in almost a continuous way. The themes and messages in my work have been shaped primarily from growing up in the city of Detroit and returning to Detroit several times after having lived other places. And so being kind of amazed by the transformation of the city, the devastation and the change. And so the project behind me started with a chance to kind of contextualize the change of Detroit by looking not only at Detroit, but by looking at other cities as well that had similar growth patterns or similar development patterns over a couple of centuries. The project, City's Departure and Deviation, was created as part of an artist in residency at the Museum of Glass in Tacoma, Washington. Previous to this project, I had worked in glass and in bronze and stainless steel and a lot of other materials. Earlier projects were tied to manufacturing processes, as they were also kind of examining the manufacturing and industrial changes in Michigan. So it made sense to use materials that were tied to industry. Most recently, I've been primarily working in glass, and I really love the kind of metaphor or considering the relationship between the notions of the fragility of landscape or the fragility of community and thinking about the glass as how it kind of reinforces the content. Sometimes I'm looking at random things and realize there is potential in examining, say, economic information or population information, or in newer projects looking at sea level rise in relationship to the landscape and how much the landscape is going to be transformed. And so in a lot of ways it's about, thinking about the data in a really simple way, but imagining other ways of kind of providing interpretation of the data. But I think my practice has been shaped partly by being a teacher, so trying to create projects that aren't necessarily about teaching, but create projects that are meaningful to the people that interact with them, and also creating room for people to investigate them. So here we have the Jacksonville pieces, so somebody from Jacksonville can start to understand what the relationship is, their relationship might be to the two pieces that are here, but then it also sets up a series of questions that they can ask about cities they may be less familiar with.